Hi, I'm Archie Poulos. I did an MTS apprenticeship in the mid-1980s and have been a trainer ever since. And this is where MTS all began, at the University of New South Wales. In 1978, young men gave up their career prospects to work with Philip Jensen to win souls for Jesus. And it was in that year I met those first apprentices. You couldn't help meeting them. They seemed to be everywhere. They'd be at the gates leafleting as you'd come into university. They'd be just walking up and talking to people, and they'd be in all the lectures, and they'd be inviting people to come to a mission that was being run. The mission was No Christ, No Life. And a number of people in my year came to saving faith in Jesus through that mission. A few years later, the numbers of MTS apprentices here on this campus had grown to about 30, and we ran yet another mission. What we did was we erected 1,000 crosses beside this walkway here, and people took turns to carry a coffin up and down the walkway in order to advertise the question we were asking about our mortality and what happens after death. I'm sure many of you were involved in that in those days, and they were great days. Days where we were challenged to live wholeheartedly for Jesus. And I'm sure many of you too were tapped on the shoulder by either Philip or Cole Marshall, who called us to do what we really wanted to do, but no one else was pushing us to. That is, to live a life of wholehearted commitment to Jesus, the type of life that they were modelling. They called us to do it in a way that just followed those who we knew that were a year or two ahead of us. And that's what MTS was. It was about living your whole life in the light of the gospel. It was about sharpening and deepening our trust in the Word of God as we began our ministry lives. And it was about seeing that in proclaiming Christ, people's lives could be transformed. That was the heart of MTS. But the world has changed. This is where the chaplaincy hut once stood. It was a World War II fibro shack really, and it had a tiny office and a small meeting room, and this is where everything happened. And now it's a wide open space. The world has changed, and MTS has grown and is adapting, but at its heart, MTS is still the same. When MTS began, it was a simpler chaplaincy hut type of world. All the apprentices were trained by Philip and Cole, and then we went to Moore College, and then we became leaders in churches, in AFES, on the mission field, mission leaders. That pathway will never change. What MTS has always done, it will continue to do. But the world is bigger and more complicated with its wide open spaces. And so as well as the mission leaders that we have always trained, we need hundreds, perhaps thousands of gospel-driven servants to work alongside our mission leaders as we try to reach the world for Jesus. This change calls for new pathways for us to follow. To be honest with you, we couldn't have done this 30, 20, even 10 years ago because we didn't have enough trainers to do anything other than our premium apprenticeship that we have always done. But now God has given us you, and you are the key to us creating these new pathways. So I want to speak to the MTS trainers, people who are like me, whose faces look older. As MTS moves to open up these new pathways, it needs your help more than ever. More than ever, to keep going, to keep recruiting, to keep training, so that we can do what we've always done, even better. More than ever, we need your help to recruit new people and to open up new pathways for the different situations and circumstances and ministries that are opening up to us, ones that we have never even thought of before. And probably most importantly, we need your help in vocational guidance for the next generation of apprentices. For a number of reasons, as we open up new pathways, when people see a variety of pathways in front of them, sometimes they won't even enter on any one of them because there is too much choice. But secondly, it is just so much human nature that people will choose the easiest pathway rather than the best pathway. So we need your help in this ministry guidance to help people to do the right thing, to choose the right pathway, that they might live and spend their whole life in the service of Jesus for his glory. I know this is a change, but the new MTS Pathways is not a reason to turn your back on MTS or to ignore MTS. We need you to put your shoulder to the wheel more than ever, particularly in the area of ministry guidance and vocational guidance. Will you join me in it?